Actually, brother, if you can check me also. Just see if it's live. If we are live, welcome. If you're looking to add print on demand to your business, this video is for you. Tonight, we're going to have a special guest on to talk about how they added an additional income stream through print on demand to their business. My name is Steven. Tonight, we have a guest on, and me and my brother started this Wingman U channel on YouTube to help people with print on demand add additional income streams through different channels, and pretty much through all of our failures, help you guys go further faster.
So I am his brother that he was talking about, Nate. We named our business the WingMan. Basically, that's the underline of everything we do. But currently, WingMan University, as that's what we want to do, is come alongside you guys wherever you're at and help you with your business. Mostly focused on, like Steven said, print on demand right now. But we expect that to expand in future, especially with great people like we have on tonight. But before we get into that, I did want to remind you guys of what we talked about last week, in case you want to go check that out, which links will be in the description below. And last week we kind of did just frequently asked questions that we got from some of the communities that we're in on Facebook and on YouTube and just other places, kind of compiled them all together. And we thought they were foundational questions for print on demand, and just thought it was good to run through some of those, get Steven's opinion with me, either agreeing with him or disagreeing with him on several topics. So that was good. We talked about several questions, kind of. One of them that I have written down here to remind myself of what we talked about last week was someone was looking to start a print on demand in 2020. And so we discussed that topic. What would that look like? And how could we help you in that process? And so there are several other questions that we answered, but if you guys want to check that out, again, you can do that by clicking the link in the description below, and that will take you to last week's call.
Yes, and if you're here, I'm assuming you're looking to start a print-on-demand business or add to your POD business in 2020. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We have videos coming out daily to help you add additional income streams using print-on-demand.
Okay, so that's all the promo stuff out of the way. Let's get into bringing our guest on. So this is Common, our friend. Steven actually met him first. I don't know if you want to give a little bit of a background story of where you guys met and why you guys like working together now.
Yeah, I guess it started by me going to a trade show in Las Vegas. I'm very data and analytic, if you don't know that by now. And me and Common kind of hit it off. We were testing a lot of things, trying out different things, and the way that he did research was very similar to mine. And then we started just going to a lot of booths together and trying to figure different things out and trying to test the market through research more than just buying something, throwing it up there willy-nilly. It was a lot of research, development, and then we stayed in touch after that show and just talked a lot about a business. And then I actually went out to California when we did a presentation and met back up with him, his wife, his kids. And then we just stayed a lot more in contact because his wife is Asian, my wife is Asian, and they just like rice and talking to each other. So we've become better friends now after that.
So if you have an Asian wife, we're going to be friends. There's a lot out there.
So this is Common. If you want to, I guess, introduce yourself, talk about who you are, and then kind of what your business is currently. And then I guess I'll ask you some leading questions to how we started working more together.
Sure. So started Amazon 2016, I want to say. Tried all the different models, wholesale, private label, retail arbitrage, OA. Threw everything on the wall. The OA was the only one that stuck because we were the only one making enough money to pay the bills. So we've been doing that for 3 or 4 years now. I mean, that was our main model. We've done, I think our biggest year, we had $900,000 in sales from 1 year.
Nice.
And I think we've totaled, I want to say, 2.7 million in sales since we started. Mostly RA, mostly OA, mostly RA, a little OA sprinkled in during Q4.
I guess I'm going to stop you right there just to explain what that is. OA is online arbitrage and RA is retail arbitrage. They're both ways to resell on Amazon or any platform, I guess.
Yep. So, I mean, what we did, I live in Southern California, so there's a lot of stores out here. We used to sell a lot of Nike, so around our area, I want to say there's 9 outlets in our area. So we could hit 2 or 3 outlets at once in one day. So I think like during a really big sale weekend, we hit 12 outlets, like me, my wife, and at that time, my 4-year-old son. So we just drove around all day. And I don't know if you know, but a lot of RA stuff is kind of drying up. There's a lot of regulations, a lot of new things that are going on, and our sales have slowly been declining over the last few years. I talked to a lot of friends that are in the space. Obviously, you've been in the space for 4 years, know a lot of people, and a lot of 7-8 figure sellers are actually closing up shop because they used to do stuff with RA. So obviously I don't want to close up shop. So I'm looking for a new way to generate money, but used my experience from Amazon to do that. So that's why I kind of want to go into print on demand. I see a lot of benefits from it based on just my history with RA. And obviously I know Steven, so I'm just going to Nathan, and I'm just going to ride their coattails all the way to the gravy train, So that's kind of where I am right now.
All right, nice. That kind of leads me into my next question: why you're adding POD to your business, and then what your goals are for adding that print on demand piece. I was seeing it as adding an additional income stream, but I guess it is a shift from what you're doing. So why is it print on demand that you're looking to add and not something else?
Well, one, I think print on demand, well, back to my history on RA, like RA is great. You make a lot of money, but you spend a lot of money. And when sales aren't coming through and the credit card bill is due, it's really nerve-wracking. I've had, like during Q4, we spent like $50,000-$60,000 in 1 month, or actually in a period of 2 weeks. And I'm like, dude, sales better start coming. I better start getting paid soon because that bill is coming. And that's what is attractive with print on demand, because I don't have to front a lot of the money and I could kind of test some stuff out. A drawback with RA is like you could scan stuff at a store, think it's going to sell, looks great. You send it in, it doesn't sell. Now you're out that money. Or even worse, like you got to donate all that money because like someone returned something, especially with shoes, and you can't resell them. And it's just an expensive process, And lastly, going to an outlet's fun when you're shopping for yourself. Going to 12 outlets in 3 days with a 4-year-old in tow is not exactly the most peaceful thing. Not exactly something you're looking forward to doing during the holidays. So print on demand seemed like an option I'm more than happy to test out and try out, So
yeah, I guess that's really why we stopped doing a lot of reselling. It is a lot more enjoyable to just go to the store, pick some things up. But then when it becomes your job, it gets old fast, at least for us. Some people love it. It wasn't really mine or Nathaniel's thing to go and just shop all day, every day. And then we talk about that. Black Friday as like the last time we did it. It was like the straw that broke the camel's back. We just were shopping all day. We didn't get to enjoy Thanksgiving or eat like a Christmas holiday, anything. It was just like, we're done with this, and everybody kind of split different ways. But I do want to ask you, what are your goals for POD? And I guess you can be a little more vague, because some other questions that I have, I think, are going to enlighten people of what we are currently doing and how things are moving around for us.
Obviously another stream of income. Diversify is another thing that's really big. If something happens with RA or something happens with Amazon, and I've met a lot of people who have their accounts closed and they're up the creek without a paddle, at that point. And our income is Amazon, and if we lose it, we actually lose a significant amount of income. So that's one. And I feel like it's just, there's a need out there, especially for people who, I talk to my church and they're always printing shirts for retreats and they're always doing all this other stuff, So I see that it's out there and I see that there's a need for it. And then I think the last thing is I just want to be able to support my kids and just learn a new business model. I like learning. Learning is always something that's always been interesting to me. So obviously I don't want to learn like quantum physics or that stuff that's like has no way of me making money back. So this seems like a good way to at least you learn some of the stuff that I know, and it'll be an easy transition. So
Yeah, was very excited. 2020, our goal is to help more people one-on-one. Last year, I helped my mom. I think that like started this new or lit a fire in me to going back to what our roots were, which is like helping people one-on-one. And I don't remember when we talked, but I remember you shared an interest in POD, and I was like, oh, this would be perfect. We can now try to work together. I can try to show you how to add POD and all the different ways that you can earn money through POD. It's not just merch, it's not just KDP. There are a ton of different platforms. And like how you brought up, working with other people and partnering is something that Nathaniel loves to do, especially with churches and nonprofits. That's something that has added a lot of income to us and a lot of joy, because just reselling stuff, there is no like connection through a person. But when you're helping people, there's that connection. You like actually can work together, helping the church raise money through shirts, through other print on demand ways to send people on missions. It's like you have a bigger impact with your business, where I wasn't getting fulfilled through just reselling. But I want to, we actually started this in January, a few weeks ago. And we started on a path. I'm going to hopefully allow you to elaborate. What did we start doing? And then I guess if you want to just talk about that, and then I'll ask you another question after what we set upon doing to begin with. What was our original idea? Or I guess your original idea.
I mean, I think I had a merch account. Merch was a big talk a few years ago. I mean, even now it's still a lot of a big talk. And I just felt like it was an underutilized account, especially since it's so hard to get a merch account, it seems. Like, I mean, you got to still apply. It's not like wide open anymore. And then I was able to tier up too. So I had like, I think it was a 500 tier at the time. And I'm like, hey, let's just work on it. Let's just do it. It's on the Amazon platform. And I knew Amazon. So I was like, hey, you start off with merch. That's kind of how I think we started talking a lot more, was when you started growing WingMan University and then started doing merch stuff. And I was like, hey, let's do something together. I talked to a lot of other sellers too, and they have merch accounts they don't do anything with. It's like the redheaded stepchild sort of thing. So I was like, hey, if I could learn it, maybe I could help my friends out too. So we were doing it, and we were doing sales, and I was like, oh, cool. It looks like, hey, we're building momentum. Let's kind of blow it out of the water. And then I got the dreaded, hey, your merch account is terminated. Sorry. That's it. So I tried to appeal it by saying, hey, I own everything. I hired a VA. We actually wrote everything. And the nice response was, we reviewed it. You're still terminated. Thank you very much. Don't start another one. That's kind of, and that's where we're like, hey, now, Steven, what do I do? And that's kind of.
Yeah, I guess that conversation that we had was very eye-opening. I almost wish we recorded it, because it was like your frustration and just like trying to figure something else out. But I think that's really why me and Nathaniel started this community. We've had problems in the past. I love being able to rely on my brother or just different people that we're working with. And I know how lonely this can be by yourself. And at times when you do get that dreaded letter or something drastic changes, it's very terrifying to go through that by yourself. And being able to reach out to somebody is it just makes that process so much easier. Like, oh, okay, that door has closed. What pivot can I make to continue to do what I set out to do? It wasn't I wanted a merch account. It was I want to add additional income streams. What are other ways to go about it? That conversation was very interesting. I just wanted to make that point with why we started this community and how much we love to just help people and network with people. Like, it just makes the process of business so much easier, because you're going to have problems. That's a guarantee. Things are going to change. That's a guarantee. And it makes it so much easier when you do have to pivot to be able to reach out to other people and address those things. Me and Nathaniel talk all the time. Problems are constantly arising. I love being able to work with my brother to just be like, okay, this is a me problem. I'm gonna take this on, but I need some help, like another brain to kind of process this information. Or Nathaniel will have a problem and I go, this is a you problem, but I will help you with that problem. I also love that a lot more problems are Nathaniel problem, because he's 10 years younger than me. But the original plan was to do merch. That closed down. I guess I'll say it here. It's very suspicious from Amazon to close a lot of accounts in January after Q4. I don't know. I can't prove it, but it would be very interesting to see behind Iron Curtain to what actually happened. I don't know if there were possible claims before that time and they just waited till January. I don't know, but it would be very Amazon-like to do something like that during that time and then not give people their money. Because I know a lot of people that have had their accounts shut down after Christmas through Seller Central and not be able to collect their money for 6 months out. And it's just an ongoing theme. Another reason why I'm not promoting Amazon and be your only income is Amazon, because it seems very interesting the way that they do things. I don't want to lean on a company like that then I get stuck holding the bag and then I'm out of business. Diversify. That's why I love POD. Have multiple income streams. Saying all that, my advice to Common was to do KDP because of the ease of getting in, and you get to leverage Amazon. I'm not saying don't use Amazon for gaining information and earning while you're learning. I just don't think you should be building your whole business off of one platform. It seems very dangerous. So from that conversation, I guess suggested KDP. We kind of went back and forth a little bit. You have a game plan, and I guess I'll let you talk about it, of how we're pivoting from going almost all in on merch. You even had a VA, you had it like working, and then we had to transition into KDP, or at least my suggestion of KDP. What is your plans now? And then I guess if you want to talk a little bit more about a little beyond KDP and your game plan for a little bit more of this year.
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to clarify though, like having a group doesn't make that suckage any less. It really, really sucked. So that problem was still a big problem, but I mean, it made it more comforting, I guess, to know, hey, I had someone to vent to and I had someone to bounce ideas off of. And I think having a community like that is very important. And I cherish the community we've built with Steven and Nathan and just a few friends that he's introduced me to. Moving over back, so we moved over, or we decided to move over to KDB because at least we could salvage all the designs that I paid for. We could use them as book covers. So I was like, hey, we pay for all this stuff. What can we do to like at least salvage the stuff and not waste all the stuff we paid for? And then I still want to use the data. I think Amazon has so much data that they provide for you in terms of like, hey, sales, if there's a market, if people are buying or people are looking for that kind of stuff. So that's why we kind of wanted to keep it in KDP. And then eventually I do want to move off of Amazon after I've gathered all the data and figured out, hey, who my target customer is and what they like, and move off to another site that I could have full control over, where I won't be sending myself emails banning my account, So I want to be like, hey, this is important, this is what's going on. And I know kind of what the heads up of like, I'm in control of my money at that point. I'm in control of my income stream, and it seems more repeatable, like if I wanted to branch out to something else on Amazon that's a little bit separate, I mean, I could add it to my own account, but the best thing is to add it to a separate account in case I want to sell it, and doing it through having, like, if I wanted to do it on Shopify, I could just put up on my another website, and then I could just sell my website and keep my business intact. You can't really do that with Amazon, So, and hopefully all the things that I learn, I could help other people. There's a lot of business owners that don't know anything about driving traffic, which you're going to have to learn through Shopify. They don't know anything about who their target market is. They just kind of like had a great idea and just launched. So I just see a lot of pluses there. And it kept a lot. And I mean, the reason I started Amazon was I just wanted a location-free business, like where, hey, like for example, this past week, me and my family went to Monterey Bay for the aquarium for Tuesday through Thursday. We got weekly discounted rates. Everything was a lot less busy, and we were able to do that, because we have a location-free business. I don't have to call in for vacation or anything, and we do have long-term plans of like going to the Philippines, where we could live like a king for $500 a month, instead of here we live like a middle-class person for $500 a day. So,
yeah, even in California, that's like a bigger transition.
Yeah, right. So it's just like, I mean, I could eat a 3-course meal for what I pay for McDonald's, where I get like French fries and a drink. So those are the things we want to take advantage of. We want our son to see the world, and decide what he wants to do and where he wants to stay. I mean, versus just, hey, being in our little bubble. So print on demand aligned with a lot of the reasons why we went into Amazon. So it just seemed like a
nice transition.
Yeah, transition. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I mean, it right now, I mean, I can't predict the future, but Lord willing, like it seems like a good thing. So I wanted to get my feet wet and start running. So
yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of opportunities in helping others. That's what me and Nathaniel have learned the last 2 years. Teaching, doing this YouTube channel was not really in the cards, but because we learned a process and we're able to have a lot of success and then help other people one-on-one, the opportunities open for us to go talk, present, and then build a separate business that's, I guess, under the same umbrella of POD, but it was a big shift for us. And I think after hearing your goals that you shared and how you wanted to help people, I was like, this is a very interesting way that me and Common can work together. I want to start recording a lot of the stuff that we are doing together and then putting it up on our channel and then letting more people see kind of over the shoulder of what we're doing. I don't know if it's like, oh, follow this process is exactly how it works. I think everybody's business is different, but just to see the thought process. A lot of people ask us, even when we're going out and traveling and speaking, going, oh, it's so amazing that you guys were able to do that. And it's so quick to do it. And it was like, you're just saying the tip of the iceberg. Like there's so much work behind the scenes that I want to be able to capture and let people in on. That was the whole reason that I did that playlist with my mother. It was just like, I can help my mom, but it still takes a lot of time. It's not like I could just give her the answers and then she goes and does it. She has to find her own process for doing this. I think me and you think a lot alike. So it's, I think, going to be more enjoyable for me to go through that process of like hear from the data side, hear from the analytics side. And we're really doing this to have as a jumping off point. Like you said, using Amazon for the data collection. And then how can we use that data moving forward is an interesting process. I think it's different for every business, but it's something I'm very excited about capturing and going along that path. And I just wanted Nathaniel to jump into about the traveling. This is why we love POD. I mean, we have the empty warehouse for a reason. We used to pack up our house, have fulfillment centers, like all kinds of stuff going on. It was like a logistics nightmare. We don't have to do that anymore. It's all done by other companies. We design, we create assets and then sell the assets. But those are all digital assets where no inventory has to be in my space. My wife gets the house back. She's very happy. I love POD for that reason.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to talk about travel, but I did have some questions for Common as well. But on the travel tip, like Common just said, he was out of town, and I was just out of town as well in New York for a long weekend. We went to a show on Broadway, which was really cool. One of my friends was actually in the performance, so getting to hang out with them and seeing like behind the scenes and all that stuff, that was like super exciting. Getting to spend time with family, like all of that is great, and not something that I think would be possible if I still had like my 9 to 5, because we just left like in the middle of the day on Wednesday, came back in the middle of today. Like the reason I came back tonight was to be on the call with Steven. So that's nice, but it's not like I, have to be here super early in the morning, work the entire day. Like we have a very flexible schedule, which I appreciate. That's a good thing of working with my brother. If anything did come up, he was around. But
yeah, like this call that you were like, I might not make it. I was like, I got it.
Yeah. And even if like we had to change things around, like I can still use this laptop in New York and do the show. I just, things will be a little bit different. So, but yeah, that is one of the benefits of it. In the last basically 2 years, that's how I've lived my life, is just going wherever, spending 2 months in Texas and 2 months in California, 2 months in Michigan, and just being like kind of all over the place.
A month and a half in Alaska.
Yeah, a month and a half in Alaska.
On a whim, when you were
on
like,
a 3-day notice to Steven.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that would not have been possible if we were still doing OARA, where, like Steven said, the house was a warehouse until we got an actual warehouse to put things in and started shipping all that stuff around. It was just like, this is not fun. But we've told that story enough. So I did want to ask some questions to Common, just from the data side of things. I know that you and Steven have been working closely together for a few weeks, maybe a month or two now. And I haven't really been a part of that process, which I do not feel guilty about at all, because you guys are very much so talking about the data side of this business. But I was just curious, as someone who has done a lot of OA and RA, your background, is there any like skills or aha moments that you've seen that are now useful now that you've been focused on doing things inside of the print on demand world. Basically, like, I know you said there are some skills that are transferable, but just wondering like exactly what that is, or if there's like an aha moment of like, oh, like this is the way we think about things in OA, but you kind of have to switch that mindset for print on demand, which is something that we personally went through, but I was just wondering from your point of view, if you noticed anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think that I learned late, and I wish I learned earlier, was to do really well on RA or actually anything in Amazon is to niche down, like, and to really, really understand your niche.
Say that again. Say that again.
So, I mean, so my niche was like, the reason we could go to 12 outlets over a 3-day weekend, because we only hit certain stores because we're like, hey, these are the stores we know, these are the styles we know. So like, for example, we knew Nike well. Like we could walk. It got to the point where we didn't even have to, like, the chances of us, the probability of us needing to scan was so, like, I could look at a rack and go, okay, we just need to scan this shoe, this shoe, and this shoe. And I could probably pick out 50%. Like, it was profitable. I didn't have to look at sizes. I knew the managers by name. Like, and they would be like, hey, how's it going? You know, they knew my family. Like, my son's stacking shoes, you know, like, we have pictures of him sourcing. So, like, I think understanding the niche and really, and I was so scared, like, because I guess for me, it's like, what if I niche down? Like, I'm going to cut off all this opportunity. What if this niche doesn't work? Like, then I'm going to be like, I spent all this energy and I didn't do anything. And like, but in the end, it's like, but that's the only way to do it. Like, that's the only way. And I started looking for, I guess, signals or things in data that'll help me increase my probability of the niche being profitable, you know? And I think that's what is translating, I think. And I mean, if you look at the WingMan, I think what's the 5-step process, it's kind of like that, where you're just trying to determine, well, okay, are there people buying this? How many people are buying this? How much are they willing to pay for it? You know, stuff like that. And that's transferable. I mean, my aha moment is actually like totally different in terms of POD and RA, because
can I ask you a question real quick? Because something
no,
that...
you can't. This is not your podcast. No, you cannot ask.
All right, mute him and kick him.
Go ahead.
Something that we are getting asked a lot is like to define a niche. I think I define it differently than how most people define it, but I would be interested to hear how you define it. I would say you are in the clothing category and then you niche down inside of that. But I guess I want to see like how you think of the niche and how you saw it, and then niching down for you. And then just, I think to help more people kind of wrap their head around niche, because people go, oh, I'm in office supply. And I go, what part of office supply? And then they're just, no, that is my niche, is office supply. And I go, you probably need to niche down to have more success. And I think it's a weird thing unless you see it a lot and can be able to like identify it of how we niche down. But I just want to hear from another person's perspective. How do you define your niche that you were doing in OA and RA? And then how would you niche down into that subcategory that you were really focused on?
Okay, I think the best explanation is not picking a niche, but niching down. Like anything you sell is a niche, right? Like, I mean, you go, like you said, the office supply, yeah, that's a niche. I mean, and you could go higher that niche and go, hey, you know, like hard products, you know, or you could go down that niche where it's just like office supplies, what is in office supplies. So I think the best way I think I've understood it is, hey, if you had to break down, like, say, the best example I've ever given is a grocery store, right? Like, hey, a grocery store, what's in a grocery store? Food. Okay, food is a niche. Yes, you could go into that niche, but if you want to break down food, what is in a grocery store? Well, okay, they have a meat section, right? They have a cereal section. They have a produce section. Those are niches as well. You're niching down from the market food, and now you're niching down to dairy or meat or produce. Now that niche might be too big. So now you go into produce, right? Like, okay, no, how do I niche down from produce? You're like, well, what's in produce? Like, okay, I see the vegetables in one section and the fruit in another section, and the what else? Like the pre-made salads in another section. So now you're broken down produce into another niche, and then you go into that, you know, like now you go into well, fruits, like, okay, well, what do they have? Now they have the organic versus the non-organic food, and they have the berries in one section. They have the apples in another section. They have the weird exotic fruits in another section, like they call it the Asian section for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, so like that's niching down. So literally you're just going from like, if think about, hey, where, if you were buying a product, right? Think about where it would be in a department store. If you had to niche up, what would the department be called? If you had to niche down, then what other products would be next to this product? And those would be your sub niches at that point. So I don't know if that helps clarify, but that's kind of helped me understand niching better,
Yeah, I guess it was just like your general idea of niching. And then if you want to, like, what was your niche that you were going after, or your sub niche, and how did you see that and your customers that you were targeting?
Well, the way I did it with RA is a little different. I mean, yeah, we went into shoes. That was our original niche, but we realized shoes was too big. Like, I mean, to buy Adidas, Pumas, Clarks, all that other stuff, I wouldn't understand, like, hey, what sells really well. So at that point, Nike was a big thing. Nike's still a big thing right now. So I was like, hey, let's just start with Nike. And we ended up not just Nike, but athletic shoes in general, because we noticed that when you go to a Nike outlet, there's an Adidas outlet, and there's a Puma outlet. So it was like, okay, like they're usually kind of next to each other. So it's like, okay, let's just go next to each other, and it's strange, but when you do RA, when you walk into a Nike store and then you go source at Puma store, the same people that you saw at the Nike store that are shopping here went to the Puma store, So
it's the same customer audience that they're going after.
Exactly, So we were like, okay, and we just stuck with athletic shoes, So that's why it was like Puma, Adidas, Nike, and that was kind of our. And if you want to niche down, obviously we just niche down to those three specific brands because people are just loyal to it. You talk to people like, I only wear Nike, or like, I only wear Adidas. I'm like, okay, like, sure, just pay me the $100 to buy it. I don't care if you buy that or whatever, But it's just almost like they had a passion for it, like. So that's kind of, so we niche down to those three
brands in that market.
Yeah, those three brands and those that market, and unfortunately it kind of fell apart, but I understood, I grew from it in terms of like, hey, I know what the niche market is. I got a ton of great shoes at great deals, like, that are kind of deposit still.
And I think you have a lot of great data to then use in the POD space. I always think about, if you're thinking about niche, think of the market as a pie, and then you're dividing that pie and getting smaller and smaller pieces of that pie. When it gets small, that's when you really want to target in. So you went from all of Amazon's marketplace to the clothing department, which chopped it down, then to shoes, which chopped it down. Then you went to certain brands and athletic shoe. It might seem like a sliver, but there's a lot less competition in that space. And if you're more knowledgeable than your competition, then you can have a lot more success. I think it's the same thing in POD. POD space, there's a ton of products, there's a ton of platforms. Pick your market, kind of niche out what you want to focus in on. If it's shoes, you can go shoes, athletic shoes, sneakerheads in that, like Nike brands or certain brands. You have to be careful about brands as far as the POD space, but it's the same idea. Pick something, niche it down, get away from a lot of competition. That's where you will have a lot more success. I didn't mean to.
I was going to say, I know Steven is the side of sidetracks and rabbit trails. But if you can remember where you were at before you guys went down that lane, which I think there's value there, so it's good that we went down there. But I just wanted to bring this back to that question that I had asked. I don't know, maybe that's a little selfish, but you were talking about kind of the aha moments that you had, and where dissecting that and how that was going to help you as you're doing print on demand, more focused business in 2020.
Yeah, I think like my aha moment was not how similar, but how different it is in terms of when I had to get really, I don't know how much your audience knows about RA, but pretty much you go in there, you kind of have an app and you scan, and then it tells you a breakdown of like, there's apps to tell you how many reviews there are, how long the listing's been up, how many sales, like what your profit is. And then you make a decision, should I buy or should I leave it on the shelf, right? So that decision was always a very big decision, because if I buy it at that point, like I could either lose money or make it, right? And I don't like losing money. I mean, I've had my share of losses as well. So I was always hesitant about like, hey, when I started going to POD, I'm like, that's how I started thinking of it, like, all right, like, okay, like, is this the right niche? Is this the perfect design? How exactly profitable this is? What's the market? And because I was thinking in terms of RA, like once I put an image up there, I put out money, and it's like I'm waiting for it to get back. And it just totally flipped my head when it started clicking me. It's like, this is not like RA. Like I could throw up 100 and it doesn't cost me anything. Now,
Yeah, have a hair trigger was like a
yeah,
big thing.
you know, like if you said, hey, go try out 100 RA products to purchase and buy, I'd be like, whoa, like no, like I don't just randomly pick stuff off the shelves, you know, like because it's my hard-earned cash. But when I started in POD, I'm like, and that started clicking, or it was just like, hey, this is not like that. I could actually throw up 100, 200, 300. And at that point, that's when I'm like, okay, how do I make 500 designs as fast as possible to get it up as fast as I need it, you know? And that was one of the biggest aha moments I had with print on demand. So.
Yeah, I think speed is what we talk about. Nathaniel has those benchmarks that he talks about: getting a first listing up, getting a first 100 up, and getting a sale, picking a niche. Like all that stuff comes with time, but just understanding that POD is different. You do not have to put the money up front. That was the biggest, I think, takeaway for me too when I was transitioning from OA, RA, wholesale, private label, was just, I don't have to put money up anymore. How fast can we do this? Because what I'm really after is the data. And then if I can really figure out the data, who are the customers, what keywords are they using, what do they like, colors, styles, then I can really hone in on that and increase my conversions. But in the beginning, you're casting as wide a net as possible, targeting a certain niche, and then drawing back what is working for you, and then honing in on that.
And I just want to say this for any of these Stevens out there who want to hear that like sound bit and just run forward and force the little brother to help them do all this stuff. That is phase 1 of print on demand.
Yes.
So there's definitely a time for that where let's just throw up as much stuff as we can, figure out what's working, what's not working. But that is not a scalable business when you get to a certain point. To even just give your designers, 1,000 jobs that they have to do this week.
You didn't like when we were doing that, brother?
No.
You didn't like those when we were doing 1,000 a day?
And I don't want any other little brothers out there to go through the same thing. So I was cutting that off from here. Know that is phase 1, and it's great, and it's very important because, like Common just said, there's a lot of aha moments that happen in that time where you're just like, okay, let's throw stuff up and see what's happening. But do not try to scale your business to where we're at making 1,000 listings a day and then realizing like, okay, we're doing this, but the quality of what we're putting out is just not good. We're doing this to hit a number, and we're not doing this to actually, profitably scale a business. So it was
more done for the data than the actual conversions is what
right.
we were doing with it.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. We learned a lot of lessons inside of that, but just know that there are certain phases. And when you feel like you're just turning your wheels to turn your wheels and be like, okay, we had 1,000 today, and not like looking at that data, then I would say move into phase 2 where it's like, okay, let's analyze what's going on here and decide what the best path for us to go down is, because that I think is when print on demand becomes a lot of fun, because then you get to start to use your skills and what you enjoy doing and partner up with what you learned by making all these listings and hopefully having success with that. So
and if you do it, make sure it's your older brother that does it.
If it's your older brother, fine, do whatever you want.
Yeah, those 5,000, hurry up,
This is the benefit of having a younger brother. I got an idea. It'd be perfect for you to do. Let's just set him out to do all that. I enjoyed doing the 1,000 a day because it was little to no work on my end. We had a team of VAs doing the data, and then it pushed over to Nathaniel's team. Nathaniel was going over all that stuff and like make sure the trademark checks and everything. I didn't understand how much work it was for him at the time. And that's why after a while, it is what Nathaniel said, I 1,000% agree with. I would say do as much volume as you can to start. And then once you start having success, turn all that back down and really focus in on what is working.
Figure out why.
You. Exactly.
Phase 2 is the why. We need to come up with some slideshow or something for that. But I did want you guys...
Okay, go for it.
I was just going to ask you guys to talk about, now that we kind of know your relationship and that you're both very data focused and some aha moments that you had, what does 2020 look like for you guys, at least working together?
I guess I'll answer that from my perspective. Like I said before, I want to start helping a lot more people one-on-one and recording that information to help more people. I think a big reason why I like WingMan University, the YouTube channel, is because we get to just talk openly about what's working for us, what we've failed at, and not let those failures go to waste. I feel like we've learned a lot from our failures, and I don't want other people to have the same problems or the same stumbling blocks. And a way to do that is like capturing that on video, talking about it, and then kind of showing people how we learn from that mistake and how we're evolving and moving forward. Something that we did a lot of was lean heavily on merchant KDP in the beginning. Then we started doing a lot of other platforms, products, and so on. Now we're transitioning over to Shopify so that we can build our own customer base so we don't have to lean on any other platform, because we see that's becoming more dangerous. Again, I don't think that's something you start out on, but it's a nice way to transition into building your own brands, your own customer base, your own email list. I want that process to be shown with Common. Me and Nathaniel have maybe too much at times businesses going on. I want to be able to focus in and say, hey, this is what we're helping Common with. This is a goal that we both agree upon, and this is the journey that we took to get there. So doing that with Common, I think, is a very interesting way from the analytic side, because we see a lot alike on that, and then just helping him to transition from a lot of OA and RA into POD, and how does that work for us? Picking a niche, finding what to go after, starting with KDP, and then how to use that data and drive it over to off Amazon platforms, and then just letting Common kind of take that and drive the narrative. I think Shopify is probably the next like transitional step, but I don't know. And I don't want to like push that on anybody. So if Common goes, hey, I've been trying this thing and I want to test this, it'll be us both trying to figure out how to make that work and then go through it. Another thing that I think a lot of people are interested in is using the tools. I've been doing a lot on myself, but I'm always nervous to kind of share that, because as you can tell tonight, I go on a lot of rabbit trails. Showing somebody a tool and then taking you like far left and showing all kinds of things and talking about future stuff is not very helpful. I made a few of those videos. I put them in different Facebook groups. People enjoyed them, but they said the same thing. This is too long. What's the point? Where are we going with this? As I've worked with Common more, he's able to, like Nathaniel, reel me back in, but put me back on the data that we need to be showing and how to use the tools. That was something I mean, Nathaniel couldn't quite figure out, because he was just like, okay, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what you're showing. Go back to step one, I guess. And then it was like, it was kind of a mess. So I'm very excited to work with Common in that regard, to show our journey along with showing off a lot of tools and how to use those tools and get the most out of them for your POD business. Did I take up all that?
I'm in it because Steven called me. He's like, hey, I'm gonna make you a millionaire by the end of the year. So just get us a proposal with me.
No.
And I was like, oh, really? Like, heck yeah, you know. But I mean, in the end, there's a few things. Like I said in the original, like I do want to diversify my income. I think me and Steven get along really well, and I'm learning that in business, it's actually I just heard this on a CD that I was listening to on the way to Monterey, and it really resonated with me. It's a phrase called "There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow," meaning that like a lot of people are like, "Hey, when I do this, when I get to this point where when I launch my own business, like I'm gonna be happy, right?" And I think in the end, it's like, hey, once I get to that end of the rainbow, this is probably going to be so happy. But what it was trying to convey is that no, it's not. It's like there'll always be another pot of gold. You have to kind of enjoy the process, you know. And that's when I've learned that I want to work with people where I can enjoy the process with. You know, me and Stephen could joke around. We can talk about how our wives love rice so much and have fun with that, you know, and at the same time do something that's meaningful for both our families in terms of providing for them, and hopefully learn and expand our skills and share those skills with other people and help others, you know. So don't get me wrong. I mean, money's really important to me. Like if at the end of 2020, like if me and Steven don't make any money, it's gonna be considered a failure, you know. And I mean, because in the end, we're still here for business, you know. But the beauty of, I guess, this business is that I could actually choose who I want to work with, you know. And that's why we didn't start partnering when we first met up at that trade show. Like, hey, you know, let's start off something right away. You know, it was more like, hey, let's get to know each other. Do our wives like each other? Do our kids like each other? I'm assuming like Steven's gonna have kids, so my son's talking probably to his imaginary kid right now. Like each other, So, and really important, can I have a business where, hey, I could talk to Steven and we won't be yelling at each other, and we'll still have a good time doing it, So, I mean, that's where I wanted it. It was a person that I wanted to work with. It seems like another income stream that I want to make money off of. And I mean, I'm into data, I like tools. I mean, I think one of the first comments when me and Nathan and Steven did a screen share, they saw my browser like, whoa, they actually have more extensions than I do, like that's like a rare thing, and I spent a lot more money than I needed on tools. So I like reviewing tools. And I mean, if I could save someone like $50 a month saying, hey, this tool's not that great, don't waste your time on it, I would be happy to do it. Just make sure you pay me the $5 a month that you save. Just keep going. But all kidding aside, like I wanted, I mean, that's kind of where I want to be, like learn something new with someone that I like and make money while we're doing it. So
that's the spirit of WingMan. I think that's what me and Athena realized early on is I really truly love working with my brother and making money and figuring things out and being able to like brain dump on him and then work through different problems was such a benefit. That's why we partnered up a little bit in 2019, but it wasn't like a major focus of ours. But in 2020, that's both of our focuses. That's why we talked about like who's wearing what hat, who's going to focus on what, so that we can still work together and enjoy working with each other without feeling like we're stepping on each other's toes. I think that when we do a lot of tool reviews, it's going to help a lot of people. That is one of the most questions I get asked is this tool usable? How do I use this tool? What's the benefits of this tool? Is this tool worth my money? I want to be answering a lot of those questions. If you go back to the very first video that we put on this channel, it was a tool review, Jungle Scout versus Scope. And I just covered like what I use both those tools for and which one I think is better in what situation. I don't think there is a bad tool. All the tools I think have come up to a certain level. It's just some tools are better at certain things, and being able to address that with common too, I think is a lot of insight that people are looking for. I think especially the way that we do research is different enough that people can see from two different points of view, people that really like data, how are they looking at it and how are they taking it back and using it in their business? And then just what are we suggesting?
Yeah, and I think one thing that I wanted to touch in that really important for me was that working with Steven will keep me accountable. I think when you're on your own, it's easy to be like, oh, I could do that next week. I do the next week. But now that I have someone to answer to, and I mean, I suggest
that's right, the enforcer, Nathaniel.
Right? and after that, me and Nathaniel are gonna meet in our separate little section and be like, hey, what's going on with Steven?
How can we overthrow this guy?
He's gonna have to coach me on like how to handle Steven's 2 a.m. requests in the morning. Like, but I think, dude, like accountability is such a big thing, and I'm learning that. I mean, sometimes your wife isn't the best accountability partner. You need someone outside that can push you, and I think Steven definitely pushes me. So. And he'll tell me straight, like, hey, you've been slacking off. You gotta do this, and you need that. As much as you hate it, you need it. So, and luckily, I get to push Steven and be like, hey, you're going on a tangent. Calm down, back over here, So
that's what Nathaniel's looking for. Another person to just tell me to relax.
Yes.
Power in numbers. It
takes a village. But as this call is wrapping up, we want to respect you guys' time and respect Common's time as well. I know Steven had put together some slides. I don't know if you want to show that.
Yeah, it's just one. I guess two.
Okay.
Question of the week, and then I wanted to kind of cover our answers from 3 different point of views that we have on this, and then maybe transition this into like another goal for 2020. So I guess I will share my screen. Let me know if you can see that, Bretta.
Yeah, you want me to read this off?
Yes, please.
All right. So the question of the week that Steven has for us this week, or questions of the week, is how do you validate niches for print on demand? I don't know if you want to go through these one by one or just all of them at once.
I guess just read off the whole thing and then we'll go back and answer it all in one.
So that first one, how do you validate niches for print on demand? The second part is, I know you have a 5-step test for merch, but want to find a way to validate for more than just shirts on merch. And then the last one, do you guys have certain things you look for before deciding to start testing a niche?
How we validate for niches for POD, I guess, changes depending on the product or platform that we're going after. The foundational pieces, I think, stay the same, but just how we treat them is a little different. Each platform has its own little quirks. Each product has its own little quirks that you have to look for. But yes, we do. And the WingMan 5-step test is kind of my go-to. I think a lot of people, when they started following us, just assumed that it was all merch because we probably talked about it like that. But it is our go-to for any platform that we go after. And it's just a set of rules to look for as guidelines. They're not like set in stone law, but it's just a way for us to kind of test the market to see if this is worth going after, and should we be spending time creating these assets going after these products. I guess I'll show the WingMan 5-step test. I guess, Common, do you have a different way to answer that? Do you go after certain niches? I know this is new for you, but do you have a certain way that you're going after it currently?
Yeah, like I mean, it kind of follows along with WingMan but it's not the actual steps, because what WingMan you have to ask yourself when you're going through them is like, well, why? Why do we want to do autocomplete? Why are we looking for 10 similar products? Why are we looking for less than 10,000 results? So I'm looking for, I guess, I don't know if I heard it from you or another source, but I'm looking for a Goldilocks niche where it's like, I don't want it to be too big or like too hot, right? In terms of like porridge, right? Like if it's too big, I can't compete. These companies are going to they have way more resources than me. They have way more smarter people than me, and they're going to be throwing up a lot of stuff that I won't be able to compete with, right? But I don't want it to be too cold or too small in terms of, hey, like there's only 10 people interested in this. Like even if I sold all 10 of the things, like I'm going to be in trouble, So I kind of want a nice, warm, medium like niche, and I use a lot of tools to do that. Like obviously use some of the data that is in Amazon, like how many search results are going for this search term, or go to Google Trends and see like, hey, is there actually people searching for these things or these items or this niche? How many different ways people can name this niche, and doing individual searches there. Going to Facebook groups. Are people creating groups in Facebook that talk about the things that we want to go into? Like if you, like for example, if we go back to Nike, like if you type in sneakerhead in Facebook, you're going to see a lot of groups out there. And I mean, if people are spending their free time to just read and scroll through their phone to see what people are talking about, then they're probably going to be willing to spend money on it, So, and then obviously there's other places you can look at. I mean, other marketplaces to see if other people are selling stuff. Because when I first started business, I'm like, dude, I want to come up with an idea that no one else has come up with before, and I want to be the first to do it. I've learned that that's not the way to go about it, because a lot of times, probably because there's no idea, because there's no one buying it. That's probably why there's nobody on it, So a lot of ideas out there are already thought of, I mean, you might want to come up with an original idea, but there's no such thing as original idea.
Yeah, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I guess hearing you talk about that and then seeing our 5-step test, I'm actually going to share my screen again to go over this. It's the WingMan 5-step test is more for validating an idea to test a product. I think what Common's talking about is probably what the question's actually asking, is validating niches. Sorry, and maybe me and Common, we can work together on that. I don't think we have done an excellent job of that, because we've been a lot more product focus and platform focus. Like we almost address like after you have a niche, what you should be doing. After you have a niche, we go after the WingMan 5-step test. We want to see if the keywords that you already have for that niche, if you put them in, do they auto complete? And we're really doing that to see if there are customers looking for that stuff. So like Common was saying, is it worth going after? We almost do a step before that with the validating the niche to see if it's worth it, which we have not talked about openly. But maybe that's a goal for me and you, Common, in 2020. It's like, let's build a phase 1 of this process. How do we validate the niche? And then after we validate the niche, phase 2 is this Wingman 5-step test idea of what to look for. I want to change this Wingman 5-step test up a little bit anyway, because Amazon's changing, all the platforms are changing. So we have numbers here. I want to take the numbers away and just get to the core ideas. Autocomplete, there are customers looking, so you know that it's worth your time. You want to see matching products. It doesn't necessarily be 10, but if you're putting those words in, are people looking for, if you're trying to sell shirts, are there mostly shirts on the page? If you're trying to sell books, are there books on the page? Whatever product that you're planning on selling, is that product represented on that results page? If it's not, then it's probably not worth your time and energy and effort, because nobody is, like Common said, looking for that. And it hasn't been tested. If you're going to take time, energy, and effort to do something, and this is a new niche for you, don't go after something that nobody else has done. Don't reinvent the wheel. Pull from other people's experiences, pull from your competitors, and try to emulate their success to start. Once you start having success, then you can reinvent or try new things. But to speed up your process to success, I suggest sticking with this set of rules. We want to see results on page less than 1,000. Again, that number can change. We just want to see, how much competition is there? The less competition, obviously, the better for us. And then we want to look on Amazon. 8 out of the top 10 have BSR. This represents sales. Each category is slightly different. That's why we don't have like, oh, you want to be under 1 million or under this. Just 8 out of the top 10. Do 8 out of the top 10 have a BSR period to see if it's worth going after? And then the next one is the velocity. Is 2 of the 10 under 1 million BSR? In most categories, under 1 million is selling multiple times a month. Books might be slightly different, but it's just a guideline. And this represents monthly sales. Like Common was saying, you don't want to necessarily go after a niche that, hey, only 10 of these are going to sell every month, and there's some competition here. Am I going to be able to dominate this space and get all 10 sales? Is that really worth your time, energy, and going after? I don't think so. You want to see some more sales velocity to make it worth your time building an asset to test that market. And I'll stop screen sharing now. But I guess, Nathaniel, if you want to, I was going to say recap the call, but I know that we've gone on long enough. But I will say, if you're interested in this idea of adding POD to an existing business, me and Common have started recording some of our calls. I actually released one last week. Nathaniel, if you want to put that in the description or wherever the comments are, you can start seeing the progression of me helping Common, how we're starting off, kind of the first road bump that we hit that we kind of like had to pivot from, and the direction that we chose to go in. You can hear Common's story. I'm asking Common if he can do a little recording on his own to kind of show his process for discovering how to build a system that he can work off of. I don't know if that will be under the Wingman banner. I almost want him to start his own YouTube channel. That's me maybe like, pushing a little too much on him, but yeah. Let's see how that all works out. But if you're interested in the journey that me and Common are on, that will be coming. I will have the link to the playlist. I think only one video is released so far. Another one will be coming out this Wednesday. My plan is to every Wednesday release a new video of this process and that you guys can follow along with us.
Yeah, so especially if you like data, listening to these guys I talk will be good. If not, maybe watching the one that Stephen helped our mom with, because that was very educational as well. I don't know. I think that even if you're like me and you're very art focused, like still understanding or at least hearing people talk about the data will help maybe some of those gears start spinning in your head so you can work through some of the problems, because that is a very important part of the business. I like to say it's the most important part, and I think that's just because it's all like magic to me still. So it's less of my area of expertise, as our good friend that we had on a few weeks ago, Christy would say, and but that doesn't mean that it's not important. And if you're doing this business by yourself, it's definitely something you need to learn, and they will try to break it down the best that they can. And I think that this series, or this idea that Stephen now has to work with people as they're learning, is extremely helpful, just because you get to see some of the walls that they're going to run into, like an account getting shut down. Like, how do you handle that? So instead of us just doing a video talking about that, you have to see somebody go through that and either can relate to that or prepare yourself properly for the future of your print on demand business. So I think we'll end it there. Like I said, we want to appreciate you guys' time, respect your guys' time, and as we're almost at an hour here, I think this was a very good show. Thank you, Common, for coming on and just sharing some wisdom with us and being open to this whole process. It's not always the easiest thing in the world to show as you're learning something, what those roadblocks look like, and the hiccups and all of that goes with it. You have to be open and able to take criticism and just have some of those uncomfortable moments at times. But I think we're all doing this just for people to learn and see our failures as openly as possible. That's one of my personal goals in 2020, to be more open and honest with what's going on in our business today. And so this is another person that wants to join us in that journey of let's just be open and honest about what's going on, and hopefully that will help other people avoid some of the situations that we've been in, because it's just not fun. And so if we can help you avoid that, then that makes us feel a little bit better. And I think the sting of what we go through hurt a little bit less, at least in my personal experience. So that's
when we fail now, it almost feels like it doesn't really feel like failing. It feels like a learning lesson that we get to share with other people. I think especially with you learning so much through Shopify and having those bigger problems come up, it almost like changes how you see it. It's like, this isn't really that big of a problem as maybe it would have felt like before. It's just a lesson that I get to help other people with, so that they don't get into the same situation there. I'm more aware, because as we're going through different processes, we are going through a lot of stuff blind, and there's not really enough information out there for us to feel confident, like, oh, this is the way you do it. This is the best way. And as we help more people, I don't know if there is a right way. I think everybody has their own path. And I think that's why I want to start working with more people, showing that process. Like with my mom, her process is way different than ours. Common, as I talk to him, his thought process is different, and just how he's going about it and what he wants to focus in on and how he wants to pivot his business is very interesting. I want to capture a lot more of that, so people can see, oh, this is the right way. This is a process. There are some foundational steps that you have to take, but once you get those down, you kind of are open to do it however you want. I think that's why, again, I love POD, because there are countless ways to make this business work. Even me and Nathaniel now learning a little bit more about licensing and how I can add that to our business. But partnering is, I think, a big thing that Nathaniel wants to bring into our audience, like the information that we are going through with partnering, and then just how to partner, how you can add it as an additional income stream. That's very interesting. I think it leads to a lot more additional income streams when you start adding your knowledge to other people's opportunities, and then find clever ways to build relationships.
But those are all things coming up in the future. So until then, we will see you guys around. Again, I want to say thanks again to our guest tonight, which is Common.
Thanks,
see you
Common.
guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.